Hello, hello, hello. Good evening and welcome to this anxiety Q&A live stream with me, Tim Box. I'm a mind coach, remedial hypnotist and hypnotherapist, and I help people get over their anxiety issues. You might know me from a TED Talk. I did a TED Talk about anxiety called How to Stop Feeling Anxious About Anxiety, and I did a book called I wrote a book called Clear Your Head, which is all about living life without anxiety getting in the way. Probably one of those ways is how you found me. Maybe you've been on a live before, maybe you've seen some of my videos, or maybe you've just stumbled across me at this very moment. Fate has decided that our paths have intertwined finally. But please let me know if you're in the room. I can see the comments coming up. Hi, Carlos. Hi, Loz. Hi, Paul. Good to see everyone. The format is the same as it always is. Every Friday, I go live here, and my goal, my mission, if you like, is to answer as many questions about anxiety as I can. Not because I'm like trying to achieve some amount of questions asked, but so that I can help as many people as possible. I have questions in the bank, as it were. I've got some questions that have been left on my videos that I can dip into, and sometimes we'll start with those. But of course, my aim here, this is why it's live rather than just a video about one of the questions, is that I want to be able to prioritize the people that are in the room. Ask away, ask me any questions you want about anxiety. Okay, and I will do my very best to answer them. As I say, this is sort of what I do. This is my job. So not YouTube, I should say, but dealing with anxiety issues for people. So yeah, let me know if you've got any questions. I'm also going to put out there, subscribe for regular anxiety advice videos. A quick update on the channel. If you're a regular follower of the channel, I am now going to be putting up videos Monday and Thursday. So what's going to happen is my Thursday video is going to be my main video, as in the one where it follows a theme, and it's about 10-15 minutes long. And every Monday though, I'm going to put up a shorter video that is just kind of a short form answer to a question that I've had, because I'm just aware that loads of the questions are backing up. I can't get through all of them, so I thought I'll just make some shorter videos that answer those questions, and they might be of help, they might not, who knows. But and of course every Friday I'll be going live, so the channel's it's going to be slightly busier again. Right. Okay. Good evening, Michael. I'm saying good evening. I don't know where you are in the world, everyone. So in the UK, it's the evening anyway. It's 6 p.m. in the evening. I hope you're having a good day. I hope you had a great week. I've had a good week. I'm feeling a bit like, when you get to the end of the week and like, yeah, it feels like the end of the week now. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm knackered, English term for tired, but I'm sort of like, oh yeah, I'm looking forward to the weekend. Anyway, Michael, you put a question in here. Does anyone have thoughts about what thoughts are? Christ, let's just start off really deep, shall we? Christ on a bike, Michael. That's a deep one. Thoughts. This takes me back to my old days when I studied philosophy at Kent University. What thoughts are? Okay. No, is my answer. That's a really dismissive answer. My interest in what emotions are. If I could steer the conversation towards that, I think what thoughts are. I think it's just, if you were to ask me what are our thoughts for, I think our thoughts are to steer us as an entity towards happiness. Yeah, I know people always say, oh, it's just your mind wants to keep you safe. I think happiness is our primary target as a human being. And I think our thoughts are in some way trying to navigate us towards happiness. If that makes sense. That's a really reductive answer to what are thoughts. And I'm sure a neurologist would give you a different answer than I would give you. But that's my thinking, is that when we're thinking about things, when thoughts are coming into our awareness, coming from our subconscious into our conscious awareness, it's a bit of us is saying, right, this is probably what needs to happen for us to move towards happiness. Now, I know a lot of people might say, well, hang on, it doesn't feel like my thoughts are there to make me happy. It feels like they're making me unhappy. But I think we've got to recognize that your mind has to tick the box of safety before we can move on to happiness. It's like, we can't feel happy if we don't feel safe. So a lot of the anxiety things that we're feeling, and anxiety when it becomes fear or panic, is very geared towards, hang on, there's potential threat, so let's try and steer away from it. So that's my 10-second answer to what thoughts are, Michael. I hope that was of use. I see you put, I find this really frightening. Honestly, Michael, I would suggest that's one of those questions that I don't think we need to ponder too deeply. And I'm coming at this not from a therapist point of view here, or slightly from a therapist point of view, but more from from a philosopher's. I'm not a philosopher, but I was studying philosophy, and my conclusion about a lot of the things you think about with philosophy, the existential stuff, the deeper stuff, the thoughts, thinking about thoughts type of stuff, is that it's not tremendously necessary. And it's almost like counterproductive. The more we wrap ourselves in knots thinking about thinking, the less we focus on just being happy. Thoughts can't damage you, though. That's what I would say, Michael. There's, I know we talk about intrusive thoughts and we feel they can be harmful and scary. Thoughts cannot harm you. They're just thoughts. And we've got to recognize as well, a lot of the thoughts we have, the ones that we might regard as frightening, the ones that seem like, why am I having this? Does this mean there's something wrong that I'm having these thoughts? A lot of the time, it's our mind sort of trying to cover the bases for us. Yeah, even so, the weird and bizarre things, it's a bit of our mind bringing it forward almost so that we can reject it as, no, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't, or I don't want to focus on that. Should we do this? No, I don't want to. So, and that's what your subconscious is constantly throwing things at you and constantly like dismissing loads of stuff as well without it even coming into your conscious awareness. So don't concern yourself too much with what thoughts are coming forward, because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of thoughts going on in the background that don't even make it into your conscious awareness. And trust me, they're probably just as random as the ones that do, Right, Mac, I'm going to go to you next then. I hope that's of use, Michael. I know it can be, thoughts can seem very scary, but they cannot harm you. They cannot damage you. That would be if I can reassure you in any way. Yeah. Hey, Tim. So I've been diagnosed with complex PTSD. Do you ever treat people with this condition? Right. The first thing probably I should say is like a disclaimer. The word treat, I try not to use, because medical people get very upset when lay practitioners like myself use the word treat, because treat is one of those protected terms that medical professionals are entitled to use. I help people with things. I work with people on issues. I don't treat things. But yes, PTSD is something that I work with people a lot on. Not necessarily like, oh yeah, if you've got PTSD, come and work with me, but because anything that's trauma-based is right in my wheelhouse, if you know what I mean, because a lot of our excessive anxieties, sometimes the origins are from some degree of trauma. Yeah. And I think there's, you look at my profession, hypnotherapy, there's a lot of people that specialize in PTSD. I don't specialize in it, but inevitably I deal with trauma a lot because I'm dealing with a lot of anxiety issues. I tend to think when we've experienced something that it kind of overwhelms our ability to develop an emotional strategy in the face of it. That's a bit of a complex way of putting it. Something happens to us and we don't feel equipped to process it. Yeah. And then as a result, our mind starts to revisit it or dwell upon it, or our safety seems threatened moving forward, or our understanding of the world. It can cause a bit of a confusion in the subconscious. So, and that's kind of, I'm dealing with that a lot with people. Yeah. But yeah, yeah, I don't think I need to elaborate on that. Strawberry Polka Dot, good evening. You made it in before. I remember last time I was just finishing before you arrived. So you've made it in. Good stuff. Kerry. Hi, everyone. I've been trying to accept sensations as anxiety, and now I've been called by GP for an appointment following 24-hour heart monitor, and I'm now back to terrified again. Okay. Well, here's the thing, Kerry. You don't know what the GP is going to say. It could be good, could be bad. We don't know, do we? And I think that's the problem, isn't it? We're worried about the unknown. But I tell you something right now, you're not going to solve anything by thinking about it and as a result putting yourself in fight or flight before you find out. Okay. A lot of the time, I mean, we could do the kind of advice that a friend or a relative would give you and say, look, 99.9% of the time, these things are just a doctor saying, well, look after yourself in this way or that way, And I think that's valuable. That's worthy things to say. But ultimately, with anything medical, my advice is very much to treat it like, well, what have I got to do? Okay, so you think about when you go into fight or flight, you go into a high anxiety state, you go into a fear state or a panic state. It's basically a bit of you saying, take action. We're not safe. Do something. That's all that's happening there. And of course, when it's like, oh, I'm going for test results, or I've got to go for an appointment at the doctor. So I've got tests on Monday for something to do with my to do with my brain, isn't it? I should remember what it's to do with, shouldn't I? Jesus. And there's so the way I've been treating that is, well, okay, so I haven't got to do anything until Monday. And literally that's my whole input is turn up, let them scan me, and then go away and then wait until they get in touch. Yeah. So Kerry, you're in that situation at the moment where you're fearing what the results might be, but there's nothing you can do about it. So I'd certainly be encouraging, those members of your crew, as it were, that parts of your subconscious to say, well, look, hang on, let's all sit down until we're in a situation where we can take action. Yeah. And even if we have medical issues that are quite serious issues, our job really is to do the things that we need to do when we need to do them, and then get on with living our life when there's nothing we can do. Because what is that saying? It's like worrying doesn't fix tomorrow, it just steals today, or something like that. I think that's quite, I should remember exactly how that's worded, but the sentiment being that if we're worrying about what we might find tomorrow, then we're not paying attention to enjoying the day ahead of us, But I think the other thing I would say, Kerry, is don't beat yourself up for feeling anxious about something that I think most people would say, oh yeah, that's a legit reason, isn't it? It's not like you're just feeling anxious for no reason. Yeah. And I'm always saying this to you guys, I know, on these lives, that don't beat yourself up or feel anxious about feeling anxious. I can see why your mind has said, oh my God, yeah, because that makes sense. But at the same time, how many times do we say, yeah, I can understand why I feel anxious, and then it turns out there was no reason to feel anxious? That happens a lot as well, doesn't it? So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I don't think it's an anxiety issue that you've got going on. I think it's just your mind is getting overly active, trying to do something, trying to sort of deal with the unknown and the impossible at the moment. You got to wait until you're in the situation you can do something about it, haven't you? I hope those thoughts are of help and not too confusing. That was Kerry. You've got it right there. That's how I should have said it. Worrying steals today's joy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I remember when I had. So when I was in my 30s, way back in the day, I had a stent put in my aorta. Yeah, which is the aorta being the main heart valve, because it was. Did I talk about this last week? I feel like I've just been talking about this. And I remember that at that time there was time between appointments, so they put it in, and then there was they had to wait until it had sort of, I don't know, bedded in a bit, and then they could widen it. And obviously there could have been a lot of worrying I could have been doing about, so it's not wide enough yet, then is that a problem? But I just had to think to myself, well, it's been that way all my life. And just because there's more to do of this procedure doesn't mean I have to be too concerned about, let's live my life and let's deal with things when I need to deal with things, and I mean, this was sort of before I was doing all this sort of stuff as well. This was a good 20 years ago, I think. And I've only been doing this 15 years. So I think this was before I really had strategies on board, in terms of, okay, what do I need to do? Yeah. So I think I was fortunate that my mind naturally kind of got kind of efficient with that. Just sort of, let's do what we can do. Let's not pay attention to what we can't do, and get on with living our life, Hey, Carlos. Let me put your question up. Just broke up with my girlfriend after 2 years. I'm sorry to hear that, Carlos. It's a new emotion for me, actually, a mix of sadness and anxiety. Any tips, Tim? Even if you're not a relationship coach, of course. So you've said that because that's why I always say I'm not a relationship coach. Carlos, my only advice when something ends is knowing that there's something. It's the doorway to the next thing. Yeah, and so I don't know who split up with who, or if it was a mutual thing. Was it a conscious uncoupling? Was it a big row and you just split up? Did one of you just decide they'd had enough of the other person? Who knows? But see, I say I'm not a relationship coach. I tend to think relationship-wise. People say, "Oh, a relationship's really hard work. You've got to work on it." I think if it's right, it's not that much hard work. Yeah, because hard work is when you're desperately trying to make something right. And I think if you've split up, for example, it probably means it wasn't right. I'm quite an advocate for saying hold out for what's right. Yeah, because again, that's just personal experience. It's not through any, relationship coaching expertise that I have. I just know that what I have now is right, for example. And I don't want to sound like I found somebody and you guys haven't, or anything like that. But what I'm saying is that it taught me a lot when I found the right person. In as much as you don't have to be in a relationship where it feels like you're not good enough or you're not the right person, or it's you're wrong all the time. Because when you find the right person and you just work together, two people working in the same direction is quite an easy thing to do. So I just think that's what I would say, is that there's more to come, much more to come. It's easy, isn't it, when I'm sort of older and you're, because and I don't want to sound like, oh, you kids, you'll find out, or anything like that. But I know that I'm at that stage in my life where I can say those things that people say, like, oh, if I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't have made. But it's futile, isn't it? Because we go into these things, we make those mistakes, we have to learn these things, and we become the person that we want to become. I don't think I stopped, completely fouling up in relationships. I mean, I still make mistakes. It's one of those things. But that's what I would say, Carlos, is that it's okay, because there'll be better things for you, right? Things that are more right for you. Anyway, if that makes sense. But I hope that's of value to you. Evening, Sarah. Evening, Ron. Any insights on cardiophobia? So we're talking about heart stuff here. If you throw technical terms at me, it's hit and miss whether I know whether I know them. But I know, cardiophobia is phobia about anything to do with heartbeat and stuff like that. Ron, what I would say, hang on, let me put that out there so that people know what I'm talking about. Anything to do with your heart, what happens is, when we focus on our heart and our heart rate and our heartbeat, then we inevitably notice things that were going on before, but we didn't realize were going on. Yeah. So we do this thing of, by the way, it's just correct. If I'm going off on a tangent here and it's the wrong tangent, Ron, then let me know, because I'm talking about things as I understand them. But yeah, I'm not beyond getting that wrong. We notice things. So I know that when I was talking about this the other day, it might have been in the members live. So you might, well, what was going on? I had a heart issue. I say a heart issue. It was that I had chest pains. Yeah. And all the time that I started to focus on my heart and all that, because obviously I've got a stent in my heart. So I was like, oh yeah, I should definitely probably go and see the doctor about that, or talk to my surgeon or something like that, and they did all the tests, all that kind of thing. I did the old 48-hour blood pressure and heart monitor and things like that. And during that time, I was so aware. I was like, my heart is just skipping beats, it's palpitations, it's going up all over the place. And then, of course, they come back and I go and get my results, and they're like, yeah, there's nothing wrong. You're fine. And you realize that I only noticed that stuff because it was now deemed to be a threat to me. And this is the thing, and that's what fuels the noticing of it, isn't it? Because we notice something going on with our heart, and we feel like, oh, hang on, I think I'm, there's something wrong with my heart, and so we pay more attention to it. But your heart is doing weird and wonderful things all the time. It doesn't remain constant at a constant rate. It goes up and down. It will skip beats. It will beat harder and faster for some reason. And you've got to remember, we're managing energy going in and out, aren't we, as well? We're eating food, we're exercising, and that's why our body's an amazing thing when you think about it. Just regulates itself. It's amazing. That's my thoughts on it, is that we end up fueling it by over fixating on that particular issue, on that particular part of what's going on with us. And you could argue that's what happens a lot with people concerned with anxiety, and health anxiety in particular. You get a point of focus that is your indicator of problem. So cardiophobia would be, yeah, I'm focusing on my heart. If my heart doesn't settle down, if it skips a beat, that means there's a problem. I'm worried about having a heart attack or having some sort of attack. But of course, all that's happening then is we're escalating the way that we're doing the magnifying glass thing. Yeah. Or perhaps a better analogy is a microscope. You know, like when you look at something, you look at a speck of dust under a microscope and it looks like a monster. Yeah, that's what we do. We overanalyze things and we create something in our mind that is worse than it needs to be. And that's why the phobia fuels itself, I think. But it's not a lot of the time. It's just my best advice for people on this. If you've got doctor's advice on this and they're like, you're fine. See, that's what I tried to do. I tried to say, right, the doctor said, I've had all the monitors and everything. I'm fine. So if I notice something going on, that's okay, because I know it doesn't mean anything now. And it took us, it didn't just happen like that. I definitely kind of had to go through some days and weeks of noticing it and then reminding myself, but that's okay, I think. I don't think that's a problem. And then you stop noticing these things. And, you know, does that mean your heart plays around a bit less because you're not getting anxious? You're not filling with adrenaline about what your heart's doing? Maybe. Who knows? You'd have to ask a doctor about that one, I think. But I know that when you don't notice it, it stops being a problem, you know? I hope that's of use. Hello, good evening, Mike. All well and good. Hello, good evening. Good to see you. Up in a while. Faith and Grace, good evening. Hi, Tim. You're such a gift. That's lovely. Thank you. Any advice for irrational fears and being overly aware of bodily sensations? Yeah, kind of like what we're talking about, isn't it? I wouldn't call them like, I've got this thing about the word irrational. I think anyone that knows my content on YouTube and on the lives in particular, I hate it when we call our fears irrational, because it suggests that we can just be afraid of something for no reason. And it might feel like it's for no reason, but it's not. There's always a reason. And I don't mean the reason is because there's really something to be afraid of. I mean, the reason is because your mind doesn't just decide to do something without a bit of learning being involved. We weren't born afraid of anything. We learned stuff as we went along. So there's always rationale behind it. Irrational would mean without reason, and there is a reason behind everything. You know, it's like when people say you can't change your emotions using logic, because logic is conscious and emotions are subconscious. But that misses the point that actually all of your emotions fire up because you learned something at some point. They came from reason. They came from a degree of logic. So I think if we understand why we feel a certain way, it gets us quite a long way to be able to feel differently about them as well. It's like when somebody's got an opinion that you don't like, if you just try and shout them down, they might keep their opinion because you haven't yet understood why they hold that opinion. Whereas if you say, right, tell me all about it, tell me why you think that way. And if they tell you enough so that they feel like you understand completely, and still then you come back with like, yeah, I get totally why you feel that way. Let me tell you why I don't think you have to, or you could feel differently. You know, it's that allowing ourselves that part to be heard. And then suddenly logic does have some bearing and some impact because we've allowed ourselves to understand why we felt this way. I know it can feel irrational because it doesn't feel like we should feel afraid of the things we're afraid of. But, you know, just because it's not tremendously logical, or it doesn't apply right now, doesn't mean it's irrational. Okay. And I think, yeah, what we were saying before, though, overly aware of bodily sensations, it's the hyper focus that makes them seem so bad. So I tend to think when I find myself doing these things, as we all do at times, you know, I'm not immune to it either. I remind myself that that's why it seems so bad, because I'm creating the concern. And I tell you right now, it will feel like, no, that can't possibly be just because I'm paying attention to it. It can't possibly just because I'm overly aware of it that it feels this way. You know, if I wasn't aware of it, I would still feel this sensation suddenly. It would still, you know, that kind of thing. Don't underestimate what your mind can do when it goes into some degree of fight or flight response. Yeah, when you think about it, if somebody jumps out of a cupboard at you, instantly your heart rate goes from like 60 to like 120, 150. Yeah, just because of you saw somebody jump out of a cupboard, not because, you know, you ran around the room, but literally you saw something. You took in some information and your body responded in that way. Just don't underestimate what your body can do just because you're concerned about your body. Okay. Plus, you add to that the fact that your brilliant subconscious can create any reality that it can imagine. You know, that's why we have dreams and we think they're real. That's why, you know, stage hypnosis is a thing, because we can get people using their imagination to create new realities for themselves. The mind's an amazing thing. And I think sometimes it's because we don't credit it enough that we think, well, it can't just be my mind creating this awareness or this feeling. It must be something medical or something like that. When actually, it's just our over focus on it that causes it. Yeah. I hope that's of use. That answer there. Let me go to the next one. Joshua. Good evening, Joshua. Did you ever deal with gut issues with anxiety? I can handle every symptom fine, but gut issues seems to be the hardest for me since it lasts longer. Yeah, gut issues are very common with anxiety. I mean, you think about it, you spend too much time in a stress response, in a fight or flight response, it messes up your digestive system. Yeah, simple as that. Some people will literally just feel sick whenever they get anxious. They've anchored those two feelings together for whatever reason. Other people, they'll lose their appetite. Other people, if they're dealing with IBS. I mean, here's an interesting thing, right? IBS is the only medical condition that you can seek an NHS doctor's referral to a hypnotherapist for. Yeah. And when you think about what that means, that's like the medical profession acknowledging, yeah, we recognize that IBS, as in our gut issues, are mostly emotionally driven, not medically driven. Yeah. I find that fascinating. And this is why, I've dealt with a lot of people that are dealing with gut issues because of anxiety. And then, of course, they're anxious about their gut issues. They get health anxiety. I say they get health anxiety. They feel anxious health-wise because of their gut issues. When a lot of the time its inception was because of the stressful situation or because of concern. And then they're doing what we were just talking about, over-fixating on the bodily symptoms. Yeah, it's a very common thing, but it's, again, a perfectly natural response to spending an excessive amount of time in the fight or flight response. Okay. Hope that was of use. I won't put Carlos's comments there on the screen. Matt, hello. Matt the Trucker, that's a good username. Hey, hope all is well. Have you or anybody tried the Calm Palm device? I don't know of that. I haven't. No, I don't. That would be, I don't know if anyone has, chuck it in the comments. What have you tried it then, Matt? Let me, if you have, let us know. I do get now and again, I'm not quite at that level on YouTube where I'm getting advertising collaborations coming forward, but occasionally I do get people companies contact me to advertise and sort of post about certain like anxiety relief devices. And because it's just not what I do. I just don't want to endorse anything like that until I find something that I'm like, I believe that does a lot of good. I delete the email. It's not something I engage with. But there's lots of different devices to calm anxiety. But again, my thoughts on this, and I may be completely off track here. Yeah, but something that is attempting to calm physical sensations is sort of working on the symptom, in inverted commas, rather than the cause. Yeah, the effect rather than the cause, should I say. Because obviously our body reacts because of something going on in our mind, our perception of our situation. Are we under threat or are we not under threat? And if we feel under threat, we might go into a fear response, a fight or flight response. That's it. When people talk about bodily sensations, that's what we're talking about. It's the fight or flight response and the ensuing effects of the fight or flight response. So I always think if we're just going to do, I don't know, like breathing exercises or like our massage things or, stuff that is designed to calm the body, we miss the point a little bit. Some of you might have seen the video I put up yesterday. Was it yesterday? It was yesterday, yeah. Which was just giving you a little mental exercise to calm the mind. Because when your mind calms down, guess what your body does? It responds appropriately. Yeah. If you imagine yourself effectively in a calm, safe environment, your body will respond as if you're in a calm, safe environment. And that's why I put that up, because I think people a lot just try and calm. They deal with the physical responses, which are that's the effect, not the cause. Let's go for the cause, and then we can get a more meaningful change, I think. Matt, you're saying you got one the other day. I find it helps a lot, but I also feel it's a distraction too. in the sense that it distracts you from how you feel? I'd be interested. You know what? I'm fascinated now. I'm going to be Googling this. I can tell. Is it just the calm palm device? Yeah, I think I might look into this. Right, Teresa, hey, you're not too late. That's okay. And Ava, good evening as well, both of you. Right, Joshua, just discovered your channel and your content info is amazing. Thank you very much. I'm glad it's of help. Do you do coaching or one-on-one? I do one-to-ones. Yeah, that's sort of my. This isn't YouTube is not how I make my money. You'll be pleased. You'll be relieved to hear. It's one-to-ones is what I do. I just do this channel as a little add-on just to help people out. But yeah, that I do one-to-one sessions with people. That's my thing. Matt, you mentioned I always feel the need to pee a lot. The IBS doesn't help at all. Yeah, so this is again, it's a real common effect of high anxiety. I tell you who you should, whose channel you should also follow. I did a video with a guy called Tim Lindeberg, and his channel is The Anxiety Mentor. He talks about that sort of effect, the needing to pee a lot. He talks about that a lot more. Because I think that was one of his symptoms, his responses that he had when he was experiencing high anxiety. So I feel like he would be the one to dip into his videos a little bit, because I think he's got a couple of videos on his channel about that. Right. Let me put this one up. Kaladi. I don't know. I'm pronouncing that wrong. Sorry. As I said before, that's the one thing I'm going to do is pronounce everyone's name wrong. Hey, Tim, your TEDx video was the first one I ever dared to watch online. Before that, I was even scared to watch or read anything about anxiety as it would trigger it more. Gratitude, man. Hey, you know what? I totally get that. Isn't that the thing? It's like somebody used to say to me once that anxiety thrives on our attention. And I thought that was it's quite an interesting way of putting it, isn't it? In the sense that the more we think about anxiety, potentially the more anxious we make ourselves. And I've had people before saying that I'm trying all sorts of things. I've tried every method and I'm starting to think I'm just making myself anxious by trying all these things. And I totally get what you're saying. But I'm glad that if the TEDx video was of help to you, but I think there is, there can be an issue with just absorbing all the information there is online, because, we're all the same. We've all got opinions on what we think is the right way to approach this and what we think is actually happening in our mind and what's the best way to deal with that. But I would say this, if you find the right message, and everyone will have a different idea of what the message is that they need to hear. They might not even know what it is until they hear it. Yeah. So I think inevitably it's okay if we feel like we've done that journey of going through expert after expert after expert, and they're all saying different things and that kind of thing. Once we find somebody that we're comfortable with, then the journey is, we'll get the result that we're looking for. We'll get the change that we're looking for. I'm a big fan of people that just say, right, I'm going to keep going until I find the answer, because then they'll find it eventually, won't they? It's that thing, isn't it? It's the resolution that, yes, I'm not going to stop until I get this sorted. That means that you will get it sorted, But yeah, I totally understand what you're saying about that fear of engaging too much with it, because it's horrible to think about it. But the good news is you're not broken, you're not ill. You're feeling highly anxious about certain things, and maybe you've started to feel anxious about how anxious you feel. That's not an issue. It feels like an issue, but it's not a state of perpetuity either. You're not stuck this way. It's just it's a confusion in the subconscious is what it is, and clearing up that confusion is what gets you the other side of it. And that's, if you're here to do that, then you're in the right place. Okay. Carlos has put something else in about intrusive thoughts. Tim, as you remember, I experienced them a lot to the point I will start to throw up. Not anymore anyway. Why does it happen? It's like the fear of the thoughts, probably. Yeah, okay, so intrusive thoughts. I think I've spoken about this before. Apologies if you're on the live and you've heard me talk about this before, but I think it is worth talking about again, because intrusive thoughts are often the thing that bother us most. And they can be all sorts of things, can't they? They could be thinking about doing certain things that would have dire consequences, or that we would hate ourselves if we did. We think it means we're one of those people that we wouldn't want anything to do with. It can be intrusive thoughts like the worst thing is going to happen, catastrophizing and stuff like that. And there's this problem, isn't there? That then we start to think, what does it mean that I'm having this thought that I find so repugnant that I can't even come to terms with the fact that this thought has come forward? Now, the way I look at it is this, right? Your mind, your subconscious, and I think this is key. Think about your mind in two sections, your conscious and your subconscious. All you're aware of is what comes into your conscious awareness, yeah? But it all starts in the subconscious. And there are thousands of thoughts rattling around in your subconscious, and very few of them actually make it to the conscious, okay? Now, what has to happen for you to be able to decide, I don't want to do that, I want to do that instead? Your mind has to think through and, what would you call it? Like almost conceptualize every option. Yeah. So the example I would use, and I know I've used this before, again, apologies if you've heard this before. I had a client come to see me who was feeling worried that they might be suicidal because when they walked over a bridge the other day, they'd imagined jumping off the bridge. Yeah. To be fair, many of us will have had that thought when we're in a high place about, whoa, jumping off, or like, when you're on the edge of the platform in the railway station. If I just jumped off now, that'd be it, that kind of thing. And when you think about it, your mind has to work out that walking off the edge of this platform, jumping off the side of this bridge, that would be bad, because then you won't do it. You won't accidentally just do it without thinking. Yeah. So let's take it as read that all of those little workings out are going on in your mind, most of the time outside your conscious awareness. And then you think, well, why is it coming into my conscious awareness? It could be for 1,000,001 different reasons. The main ones, though, it could be because it's so important. Yeah, like so the train platform example is like you are literally 2 or 3 steps away from the end of your life if you do it. So it's really important that there's no ambiguity here, and you are very aware that would be bad. Yeah. So the thought scares you and you step back a little bit. Job done. Yeah. But most of the time when I'm talking to people about intrusive thoughts, it's simply because at some point they've started to become concerned about their thought process, about their mental health or their emotional well-being. And now their subconscious isn't quite sure whether it should be bringing it forward or not. It's saying, well, normally I'd just reject that. It'd come into the subconscious, we'd process it and boom, chuck it away because we know not to do it. But we're concerned about what we're thinking about. Do you need to know about this thing? Your subconscious brings it into the conscious awareness because now it's the sort of thing you're on the lookout for, because you feel threatened by the fact you might be thinking about things you shouldn't be thinking about. Yeah. And that's why these intrusive thoughts come forward. It's like you say, the last line in that comment there, Carlos, is the fear of the thoughts. What would it mean if I keep having these thoughts? The good news, though, is that if they're disturbing you, that means you're perfectly healthy, doesn't it? Yeah, if it feels like you don't want to have them, great. You're perfectly lucid and you understand, no, I don't want to jump off of the railway platform. I don't want to leap off of the bridge. Well, that sort of thing. And also, you've got to remember as well that, I was reading some report recently about a scientist saying that, when we have weird dreams and things like that, it's just our mind practicing differentiating between like fantasy and reality. Fantastical and normal. And I think there's a bit of that goes on as well, just entertaining certain things in our mind. Maybe your subconscious gets bored at times, just throws something in there just to see how we deal with it. I don't know. Yeah, but I hope that helps, Carlos. I hope that helps. Matt, you're talking about the calm palm thing. Helps calm you by science, but when I put it on, I feel anxiety coming on, but it shocks you a bit if you don't hold it the right way, so it distracts you from anxious. Oh, I see. That's quite. I'm going to say calm palm, and it shocks you a bit. It's a bit cheeky, isn't it? Okay. Well, I'm gonna look that up. I think. I feel like I want to try it as well. I get though. I kind of get the thinking behind it, the way you described it there. Yeah, but again, for me, our journey isn't going to be about I found the right device that distracted me from the bad thoughts. Our journey is going to be to the point where we get to the other side of it and say, you know what, I don't feel anxiety is anything to be afraid of anymore. The way I think doesn't scare me. The way I feel doesn't concern me. Yeah, because all of these things are for a reason. Yeah. Right. Okay. Right. I've got 2 more questions, and then I'm gonna probably gonna call it there because we're 40 minutes in. God Almighty! Is it just 'cause I'm getting older? I just lose track of time now. Teresa, how do I talk to my crew when they're ignoring me? No one's listening. Okay, Teresa. So for you guys that don't know, we're talking about the crew as in your subconscious. You know, we've got the captain and the crew. Captain being the conscious, crew being the subconscious. Why are they not listening? Why might they not be listening, Teresa? That's a question for you. I can give you some guidance here. The basic thinking is the first thing to do is to understand your crew and listen to them. Yeah, they come at you with a message. They're concerned about something, and you say, no, what I want you to do is this one, and it's like, well, hang on, you got him a message. You got to understand me. That's a lot of the time. That's why our crew don't listen, because that's what's going on. You're not. I'm gonna say bothering. That's not the right word. You're not managing to hear those parts and their concerns correctly. Sometimes as well, Teresa, it's fair to say if we've been down on ourselves enough, or if we've gone through something where our crew has started to not trust the captain, you know, we're not got our faith in ourselves. Those parts that are just automatic safety, kicking off the high anxiety, they're not listening to what you're saying, because they're like, no, I don't think you've got the truth now. I think you know, we need to just stay safe. We need to have high anxiety. We need to have fear. We need to have fight or flight. Yeah, because it's almost like, if I trust the captain, he'll sail us into, or she'll sail us into stormy waters. You know, that can happen as well. But I tell you that the first way of healing this is always to be kind to yourself. Yeah, never beat yourself up for how you feel. I know it can be frustrating, especially if you feel the crew aren't listening, but it's like a relationship with someone else. Imagine if someone's not listening to you. What are you going to do? Most people just shout louder, don't they? If they really feel they need to be heard. But what tends to solve it is when you listen to them, because then they don't have to shout and drown you out. And the law of reciprocity says they will then listen to you. You know, it's really weird that this is coming up in this conversation, because I was just thinking earlier about something I hadn't thought about for ages. But when I was part of a networking group, and a guy joined the networking group, took an instant dislike to me because I was in charge of the membership. It was a great role. It was a really, you get a lot of thanks for that, keeping everyone following the rules of the organization. That's always do that one. And he wasn't the sort of person to follow rules, even though he signed up to an association that had certain rules and membership guidelines. And anyway, and I was trying to get my rules enforced, and he was resisting more and more and more. And as soon as I think I rang him up and I just said, sorry, I've been trying to bludgeon my way at you, and the way that I think we should be doing it. I don't think I've listened to you yet and understood you. As soon as I said that, he was absolutely as amenable as you like. And we actually got on quite well. I'm loath to admit it, but we actually got on quite, and we certainly got on well enough to be able to manage and do the things we needed to do within the organization. But it was just that moment of, look, I'm going to stop trying to tell you what I want from you. I'm going to listen to what you want and see how I can accommodate that within what we're here to do. And that's what I mean, is that half the time in life, with people and with our own mind, we're trying to bludgeon what we want into somebody else and into our subconscious, when really I think we need to start by saying, well, hang on, why is my subconscious doing this? What does it feel it's achieving? Why wouldn't it just want to change when it feels so horrible to be feeling this way? If we can understand that part, then, you know, we can get somewhere with it, I think. You know, I hope that's of use, Teresa. I know it's frustrating when it feels like your mind just isn't listening to you. But remember, you're all on the same team. Your mind won't forget that. If you behave accordingly, you deliberately choose to behave that way, then your mind won't forget that. You know? Okay. Kaladi again. So one more question, please. I get worried sad just by looking at people who seem to be sad and depressed, and start relating myself to that and start getting scary what if thoughts. How can I deal with? So is it because you're looking at people being down and you're afraid that you will become sad and depressed yourself? Is that what we're talking about? I'm aware I'm asking this question as if you can just answer me. look, when I start relating myself to that and start getting, so you're starting relating to how they're feeling and what that might mean for you. Again, sadness and depression are, they're not quite the same thing. Okay, we can feel really, 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 really sad, but depression isn't extreme sadness. Depression is more of a numbness. It's the point where our crew, if you like, say, right, there's nowhere good to sail to, so we're going to stop sailing the ship, and they stop triggering emotions. If you talk to anyone that's been properly depressed, and they'll tell you it was a numbness, it was I'm not feeling anything. It's almost like an autopilot thing, and people perceive it as really sad, but it's not. Because we can feel really sad about where we are, but still have the impetus to keep going because we know there's better stuff on the horizon. Yeah. Depression is when it becomes numb. There's no sadness. There's just, I'm not feeling anything. And because that's, our subconscious is no longer actively triggering emotions for us, because our emotions are all designed to steer us towards happiness. And if there is no happiness, there's no point in triggering any emotions. Okay. So, but these things do not just happen. Yeah. They're in reaction to our circumstances and our situation. I was so pleased with the, I forget what college it was. It was in the UK. The research about depression not being like a congenital thing or a chemical imbalance. And they were saying, no, it's reactive to our circumstance, our situation, because that's what we've been talking about for years in my profession, certainly. And I feel like a lot of people in other branches of therapy as well, realizing that it's not who we are that makes us depressed. It's our situation, our perception of our agency within that situation. Can I make things better? Can I not? So, Khalidi, I'm guessing that you're an empathic person in the sense that you're relating to people and you're noticing people who are down because you're fearing going that way yourself. All I would say is you never lose the possibility to change your life and make it better. That never goes. No matter what situation or circumstances you're in, it's all about what's going on up here. And you always have the ability to take yourself wherever you want to in terms of your emotional well-being. Yeah. So you don't need to fear, what if I feel this way in the future? Because it's in your hands. Okay. And as well as upsetting as it might be to see people who are sad or depressed, they've got to do their journey. And I think it's their journey, not ours. Okay, if that makes sense. Hope it does. Matt, the device you were talking about, picked it up on Amazon for 20 quid. There we go. I feel like we've done a bit of an ad for that now tonight. I should have an affiliate code, shouldn't I? Your kid. Oh, you're going to say my kids. Do you know something I don't? Your vids help me out. I'm pleased they do. Thank you for joining the live. Thank you for everyone who's joined the live tonight. I've noticed that the numbers gradually increase as we do a live each week. I'm pleased I'm doing these every week now. I'm pleased that they're of help to people, and it's nice seeing new people. I'm going to say seeing new faces, seeing new usernames on the screen. But I hope the answers that I've given today have been of help to everyone. And if they have, please do me a favor. You could hit the like button on the video, and you could also subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already, because these videos, they go up kind of every week. Well, I'm now doing my main video on Thursdays, my live stream on Fridays, and then on Mondays I'm going to be putting up a shorter 4 to 5 minute video every week, which is just an answer to one of the questions that I didn't get a chance to answer in the lives, but it's just something I can just focus on specifically. So there's a lot of content going up, hopefully giving everyone the answers they need. Okay, right. With all of that said, you guys have a fantastic weekend. I hope it all goes, whatever you're doing, you have fun, have a relaxing time, look after yourself. And as I always say, always remember, be kind to your mind, and I shall see you next time.